Hi everyone. To start this week's update, I'm back out in the square foot garden, and I wanted to show you what I did a few days ago here. You see those 4 empty square foots there? I removed the row of broccoli. It never did produce very well, and the little side shoots that it was producing weren't worth keeping as far as I was concerned. And in doing so, I've allowed more light to fall on the cabbages, so hopefully the cabbages will benefit from getting out of the shade and into the sunshine. They're all starting to hit up quite nicely, but they're still relatively small for a Savoy cabbage. So anyway, they've got a good length of time here yet. They shouldn't be bothered by light frost. They should continue to grow right into October, I would think. Well, it's August 24th, and I'm going to stop the vertical growth on my Brussels sprouts. I was reading on the internet that this is a process that commercial growers use to bring their crop on at the time that they want it to be ready for marketing. From the time you cut the growing crown out, supposedly it takes 4 to 5 weeks for the sprouts to completely develop on the rest of the stem. Well, here it's necessary because they haven't really started to develop. They're tiny little things, maybe 1/4 of an inch across, and there isn't that much left of our season, so if you didn't force them, I don't think I'd ever get a Brussels sprout out of it. I'm no expert at this. This is the first time I've ever grown them. I brought out a pair of pruning shears with me, and I'm going to go down in here and find the center. That took care of it. And now hopefully we will start to see the development of Brussels sprouts. Oh, there's a nice cabbage smell from the part that I just cut out of there. Another thing that I want to do this morning is to take down the blue-potted pea vines, the ones that are dying back. But I think something important to remember is that peas and beans are both in the plant class called legumes, which must seem strange to a French person because legume in the French is just a general word for vegetables. But a legume in the plant world is any plant which is a nitrogen fixer. The air that we breathe is 78% nitrogen, and legumes take this free nitrogen from the air and deposit it in granules on their roots. So when you're taking these things out of the garden, the vines for peas and beans, it's best to just cut them off at the base and remove the vine rather than pulling out the root. There are granules of free nitrogen on all of the roots, and be there to benefit whatever you plant in that area next year. But if you pull them up, you're going to lose most of them, and I don't know, they go in your compost pile, I guess, or whatever. But I'd rather leave mine right here in the garden. So I'm going to cut these off and leave the root system right where it is. Well, that's left the few tall telephone peas that are on that trellis looking a bit bedraggled. They got sort of ripped around a bit when I was removing the dead vines, but they're still producing some blossoms and they're producing a few peas. I don't think enough that I'll ever get another meal out of them, but I enjoy shelling them out and eating them raw in the garden, so I don't have the heart to pull them up until they've finished doing their work for the year. I'm still using BTK on a weekly basis, but as you can probably see from this close-up shot of one of the cabbages, there are still holes in some of the leaves being eaten on by the cabbage moth caterpillar worm. And I think that's probably always going to happen even with BTK. The BTK doesn't kill the worm on contact. It has to consume the substance, the bacillus, and then takes it a few days, it says, to die after it's eaten it. So I guess there's always going to be some leaf damage, but the main thing here that I'm pleased with, there isn't any damage on the cabbage that's forming in the center. It seems to be the outside leaves, and I guess I'm going to have to keep spraying. Just a couple of days ago I saw 2 cabbage moths out here again laying their eggs. So I don't know how late into the fall they keep this process up, but they could stop any time now as far as I'm concerned. Now, cutting down the vines and pruning the tops off of the Brussels sprouts has given me a nice pile of organic matter to add to my compost heap. Well, when I empty out one of my container pots, like I have already done to the potatoes, I save the soil and compost on top of a tarp here in the garden, because whenever I add a lot of vegetation to the compost pile, I like to at least partially cover it with soil. That way, when they get our next rainstorm, the enzymes and whatever in the soil will assist in the rapid decomposing of your compost. So that's the peas that I just added today. And I'll now put a few scoops of soil over them. I don't completely cover it, just partially. The only time I completely cover something is when I bring out food scraps from the house. Anything that squirrels, rats, or crows might want to get into, I tend to bury that. They don't see it, they don't find it, hopefully. I haven't done a lot of recording of this particular bed, I guess mainly because I haven't been that pleased with the things that are growing in it. I have several cells of rutabaga that really weren't doing all that well, but all of a sudden they've started to put on nice big leaves anyway, so hopefully sometime this fall I'll get at least some small rutabagas. And in the rest of the bed I have a couple of eggplant that aren't really doing anything much at all. That's the top of one right there, I guess. But, not having much luck with the eggplants either here or in the greenhouse. Nice big plants in the greenhouse, lots of blossoms, but I haven't seen a single eggplant on them. They all seem to be falling off. They're just not getting pollinated, I guess. And then I have 4 of the Savoy cabbages here, which are much smaller than the ones in the other bed, but they are starting to hit up. And there is one Brussels sprout here, which I haven't taken the center out of yet. I will, but it's only roughly half as tall. I thought the soil was the same in all of these beds, but there's something different about this one. I've got to add a lot of compost to it this fall or in the spring, I guess. This is the bed next door to the last one that I just showed you. It has 4 of the ground cherry plants, which were very small, and then all of a sudden they grew. They're, I don't know, they're only maybe 10 inches tall, but they're quite wide, and they've had all kinds of fruit. I've shared it with people, I've eaten it myself. I still can't decide what it tastes like, other than I like the taste very much. Well, at last I have tomatoes that are starting to ripen, both here and in the greenhouse. These plants really aren't very large, but there's some rather big tomatoes on them. They're starting to take on at least an orange color. I guess I'll have ripe tomatoes here that I can use in a week or so. Well, I've been saving some of the ground cherry seed. I have quite a bit of it dried, and I'm about to make some little packages today to put it in. So if anybody's watching this and would like to have some free ground cherry seeds, send me a message, and I will, with your address, and I'll drop a small packet of them in the mail to you. Well, my attempt at growing some fall crops are at least off to a good start, I guess. Still remains to be seen what will happen, but these 2 squares, one has French breakfast radish in, and one on the left side of the screen has lettuce. I think that square's got black-seeded Simpson. I planted 3 different varieties, one in each of 4 or 3 squares, but I think that one is black-seeded Simpson. They've germinated and they're up, and obviously the lettuce needs to be thinned, so we'll have to wait and see what our fall brings as to whether or not I get anything to eat out of it. Well, aren't tripods wonderful things? I'm in my jungle of a greenhouse here. Just wanted to show you what I'm excited about. Everybody else, I suppose, has had tomatoes for a month now, but I'm finally starting to get ripe tomatoes in the greenhouse. This particular variety is called Buckbee's New. It's an heirloom variety. It was new in the 19th century when it went on the market. It still has the name of Buckbee's New. Lovely large tomatoes, and I'm starting to get vine ripened ones. This is also something that I plan to save seeds from, so if there's anybody out there that would like to have some Buckbee's New tomato seeds, heirloom tomato seeds, once again just go to my home channel page there and send me a message with your mailing address, and I'll drop a small packet of them in the mail to you. I guess that concludes everything for this week.